And here we go. It's Drop the Mic. Mike Eccleston here live once again on the Legends Podcast Network on Lenny Melnick FantasySports.com, a network that's growing more and more each day, and I'm lucky enough to be part of. Thank you to all who are listening, and all those in the chat room. Come on in, take your shoes off, grab a drink, relax. I got a show for you today. I have a lot on my plate, so let's have at it. Happy Memorial Day to everybody, and thank you to all those, veterans who are serving now and have served for us in the past. Proud to be an American. That being said, it's very ironic that today I'm actually going to be talking a lot about, Toronto sports. What a time it is to be a Toronto sports fan. Now, we know that the Maple Leafs are a very talented hockey team. They lost in the first round of the playoffs at the hands of the Boston Bruins, who are now going to the Stanley Cup Finals. But, I'm sure the Maple Leafs will be back. They have plenty of talent. They're a very good team. And then there's Kawhi Leonard and Nick Nurse leading the Raptors to the NBA Finals, which I will get to a little later on. But there are some reasons to be excited for the future of the Blue Jays. Now, maybe not in the near future, but they do have a future. Or it appears to be, at least. I love talking about young players on the verge of making their major league debuts and, watching it all unfold. How exactly do they look when they first come up? Because they're, like I've brought up, I seem to bring it up every show, a different prospect, a different, rookie coming up and making, a big splash. It seems like Eloy Jimenez is like the only one who hasn't yet fully joined the party. I know a lot of people love talking about the San Diego Padres, the Chicago White Sox, and the Atlanta Braves. Their young players, their minor league systems, and how promising those teams' futures can potentially be. And of course, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Because, if you haven't heard about him yet, then I don't know where you've been. You've been living under a rock. But the Blue Jays have more than just Vlad Jr. jumping onto the big league scene. It's almost like the Blue Jays just went out and they were like, former athletes, former baseball players, they have kids. Join our system. We're drafting you. Because that's pretty much what's going on here. Cavan Biggio, form of Hall of Famer Craig Biggio, made his major league debut the other day. But yesterday was really his coming out party. He went 3 for 4, drove in 2 runs, hit an absolute moonshot down the right field line for his first career home run. It took Craig 33 games to hit his first career home run. His son got his in his 3rd game. It's funny because he wasn't even originally considered a highly touted prospect. I know to start out the year he was top 10 in the Blue Jays system. I think he was 9. There were guys ahead of him. But he worked his way up the system. And now the 24-year-old second baseman is showing flashes of why he's here, why he was called up. I was kind of surprised to see that Cavan is a left-handed bat when Craig was a righty. But outside of that, he's got that sweet left-handed swing. And he, alongside Guerrero Jr., and eventually Bo Bichette, son of Dante Bichette, are going to be main reasons, people will want to pay attention to the Blue Jays again. And I've brought up that the Blue Jays are they've been the odd man out when it comes to the division, when it comes to being talked about. Because I understand why, the Red Sox and Yankees, they're talked about nonstop. The Rays have, worked their way up when it comes to that. Now, obviously, they're a top team. And, people are starting to really talk about them. I understand, and the Orioles have been talked about just because of how bad they've been. The Blue Jays have just kind of been there, too. Now you're seeing, excitement surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays, which is nice. It's got to be fun to be a Toronto sports fan right now. Now, I remember quite a few people calling me an idiot and saying I had no idea what I was talking about when, I made my predictions before the season started, went division by division, and I started talking about the Colorado Rockies. And I brought up that their pitching staff was going to be a question mark. That their pitching rotation had some promise, but I wasn't necessarily buying into it. I mean, apparently their pitching was going to be their strength. To me, that was laughable. Hogwash, bulldinky, poppycock. Everyone who knows baseball knows that the Rockies, their strength has always been their bats. Always. And that still rings true. Obviously, Charlie Blackmon, unfortunately, he just went on to the 10-day IL. But you got Blackmon, you got Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, Daniel Murphy. They have plenty of bats. They have plenty of hitting. Their success was going to revolve around, okay, how consistent is their starting pitching? Well, where are we now? They're below 500 still, 2 months into the year, and the only starting pitcher who's been really, any good has been German Marquez. And even he has been inconsistent. He seems to have trouble pitching at home. Just like I feel like every Rockies starting pitcher ever has had that problem. You hear, he struggles to pitch at home. Well, I mean, yeah. I know it seemed great after the year that Kyle Freeland had a season ago when he was an NL Cy Young candidate. How much potential John Gray has in that arm, and that he looked like he found it in the second half of the season after that disastrous first half last season. How great Marquez looked last year. I mean, I get why there were people who were jumping on the Rockies pitching, the starting rotation bandwagon. But I cannot buy, I will not buy into it. I can't. I will not buy into any Rockies pitching staff. Until they show me as a whole that they've put it together. and B, because they play in Denver, Colorado. It's difficult to pitch there. It just is. And there's a reason the Rockies pitchers have trouble keeping their ERAs down outside of the fact that they're really never that good. It takes special arms to be able to keep runs off the board over a course field. It's been a rough month for the team that I had winning the NL Central Division this season. And that's the St. Louis Cardinals. What a tough pill to take. What a rough loss last night against Atlanta. Now, I mean, those games are always important to win. But when you're struggling, you're in a division like the Central that's top notch. They're the best division in baseball. You're up 3-0 in the 9th inning at home. It is essential that you do not let that game slip away from you. You got a great start from Jack Flaherty. You had the Braves, a really good lineup, right where you wanted them. Closer coming in, 3-0 lead in the 9th inning. Not only do you blow it, but you end up losing the game in extra innings. Pretty much summing up the month of May. Am I concerned with my pick? I'm concerned, yes. I'm concerned with the Cardinals winning the division. Because the pitching hasn't looked to be up to snuff. But I wouldn't put too much stock into this rough start for a few reasons, really. Paul Goldschmidt has hit 1 home run in his last 30 games. Raise your hand if you've seen this before from Paul Goldschmidt. Okay? Now raise your hand if you expect this to continue. We all know he's going to come around because he's one of the best first basemen in the sport. Arguably the best first baseman in the sport. And because he did it last season in Arizona and wound up having a huge year. Now, this isn't surprising. This isn't like something new. Paul Goldschmidt getting off to a rough start and then, going on a tear in June, July, and August, putting on a show and carrying a team. When you're a proven star who's notoriously a slow starter, don't overreact in May. And this goes with fantasy owners too. You're thinking about, like, a star of yours has gotten off to a terrible start. Jose Ramirez. Paul Goldschmidt hasn't gotten off to a very good start. Matt Carpenter, who I'm going to talk about right now. There are certain guys you just don't give up on in the first couple months of the season, no matter how hard it is. You know they're going to hit their stride eventually. It's a long season. Sometimes slumps are prolonged. But when they hit their stride, you're going to see exactly why you drafted them when you did. Matt Carpenter. I feel like we're talking about him getting off to a slow start every single year. Same story. Last night they called it his annual rough start. And then in the second half last season, he put himself